All right. Wonderful. I'm really happy that everybody's here. I know it's lunchtime, but I'm glad people came in to hear some perspective and a few stories about the past, where we've come from, and where we're going. So I've been giving these talks for over 10 years. Just mainly it was always about blockchain, the future, and what is this technology going to do. But the best thing about it, from 10 years ago today, is all the people that come and show up. Some people know nothing about crypto. This is their first event. Some people know all there is to know about crypto and they're excited to learn more. And so that's the beauty, is the fact that we're opting in. We're opting in to participate into a new system. A system that's really going to change the world. And it already has over these past 10 years. We know what the blockchain can deliver. We've seen it now. We know what tokens can deliver. There's people that have made mass fortunes and lost mass fortunes. But that's just what drives the excitement. What tokens and blockchain deliver is global connectivity. That's the promise of blockchain. The promise is what we're really here for. The promise of blockchain, the promise of Web3, what these technologies, what these innovations can truly do. Not for us. Most of us are fairly privileged. The fact we're here in Dubai, we can go to conferences and travel, we can create businesses, we're integrated with robust financial systems. But more importantly, it's the billions of people around the world that in the past never had these types of opportunities. And that's what gets me the most excited. It gets me excited to know that the technology that we're all here, we're all leaning in to build, can have such a profound effect on people around the world that never had that ability before. So, today I'll chat a little bit about the evolution of money, from Stablecoin 1.0 to Stablecoin 2.0, and the ecosystem that I'm trying to build around it. So as you know, I was the co-founder of Tether, creating the first stablecoin, laying the foundation for the cryptocurrency ecosystem that we have today. Most recently, I just created another company called Stable, STBL, STBL.com. So Stable is Stablecoin 2.0. So it's the evolution of the stablecoin, and I'll dive into that. In addition, WeFi.co, that company is also the evolution of banking. It's a fully on-chain bank to help deliver on that promise of democratization of quality financial services to anyone in the world with a cell phone. And additionally, I'm the chairman of Reserve One. So Reserve One is actually enabling the rest of the world, those who are not the early adopters like we are, those who don't want to open up a wallet, but simply want to call their stockbroker and still get exposure to crypto. So Reserve One is a digital asset treasury company. We recently announced that we raised $1 billion to buy Bitcoin and other digital assets, and this company will be traded on the NASDAQ. Once the SEC comes back to work and gets us approved. So very excited about these companies creating this ecosystem. So, the inception of this idea was over 10 years ago. The spark that changed everything, the concept. Bitcoin came out, this new type of crazy foreign currency based in code. The blockchain, however, you gotta rewind a decade ago, no one even talked about the blockchain, it was just Bitcoin. But the blockchain was really powerful. It's what moved that money. And in the beginning, no one wanted Bitcoin. That's why the value was very low and everyone thought it was a scam, etc. However, the technology to move it was world changing. So the concept, put dollars, euros, yen on a blockchain, allow them to move like Bitcoin, allow them to move globally, instantly, and for free. And so what that does for us is it laid the foundation of this trillion-dollar ecosystem. Because once people realize that they don't need banks, there are no more borders, there's democratization to not only the movement of money, but more importantly, access to US dollars for people who were in countries where their currency was not as stable as the US dollar. And so it really enabled this ecosystem to grow. However, the technology at the time was still based in this traditional mentality, which is centralized organizations, they reap all the economic benefits from the services that they provide. However, the blockchain, and more importantly, the concept of Web3, which is wallets and tokens, has changed all that. The promise of Web3 is that the community, the people who are providing the value, the people who use your services and buy your products, they're the ones that should also receive economic benefit, not just entertainment or a product or service. However, in the past, it wasn't possible. Think of Facebook. This was a great example when Web3, that term first came out. It's like, let's decentralize Facebook. Let's pay every person in the world a penny for a like and $1 for a photo and 50 cents for a comment, right? Because now we have the technology to do that. However, Facebook has hundreds of thousands of employees around the world and they provide a lot of services. But the concept's fair. We're providing Facebook all of the data, they're monetizing it, they get the economic benefit. We use the platform, we don't get anything but entertainment. So even if they wanted to give us value, they couldn't because the technology wasn't there. But more importantly, their business wasn't structured in a way to be able to give all the profits away. So enter Web3. Now we have bespoke companies, Web3 companies that are built community first, built with the community in mind and with a token economic system in mind to be able to pay people for microtransactions, for interactions, and for participation in their community. So this is what Stablecoin 2.0 is all about. So Stablecoin 1.0, pretty straightforward. Give me $1, I'll give you a token. You get a service. This token works on a blockchain. You can now move money globally, instantly, and for free. It's extremely valuable to you, but what you gave up is the interest on that dollar. That's why Tether, Circle, and the 1,000 other copycat companies that are coming soon, they're doing it because they make so much money on the interest while you just get a service. However, Stablecoin 2.0 is here now. And mark my words, most all stablecoin companies in the future will evolve to some sort of platform like this. Stablecoin 2.0, meaning the money moves from being static while it moves around, but it's static for you, it doesn't earn anything, to productive for you. And how do we do that? What is the premise of Stablecoin 2.0? Well, it's that the people who put the value in the system reap the rewards. The people who issue, who mint, who create that stablecoin get the money out of it. And what have we done to do that? So Stable, STBL, my new company that created this concept, we split the yield from the principal. So now we have a protocol that allows you to put the collateral, get the yield in a separate token, and the principal. So think about Tether. You give them the $1, you just get the principal and get to spend. But now you get the yield and the principal in two separate tokens. You keep the yield, still get to spend it. What enabled this advancement isn't just one technology. It's a global movement. It's a global regulatory shift where banks and large institutions now can enter into the crypto space without fear of prosecution. And more importantly, it's the drive, the movement for RWAs, traditional assets coming on chain. Think about treasuries. So traditional stablecoin companies buy treasuries. But now that treasuries are on chain, you no longer have to entrust that stablecoin company to buy an off-chain, offline treasury and do some audit and share that they have all these backings. Now 100% of this process can be on chain. And when 100% of the process is done by technology, you can give all the profits to those who use it. So think back to that Facebook example. People want to decentralize Facebook and pay all the users. Well, you can't build a technology that does 100% of what Facebook does. It has hundreds of thousands of employees. However, in the stablecoin business, there are very few employees because all they're doing is taking your money, buying treasuries, and doing the banking. But now all of that can be done on chain, so I can't stress that importance enough. Stablecoin 2.0 means all of the collateral is on chain. It means all of the users reap the rewards for benefiting the community. So Stablecoin 2.0 redirects the value back to the community that creates it. And in these Web3 companies, there's 3 things that take place. Well, a lot of them have 2 things, but the second thing is the governance token. For Stable, there's 3 things. It's the governance token, but our product is a universal stablecoin, similar to Circle and Tether. USST, and then a yield token. That yield token is the tokenization of the income stream of the treasury that you bought. So that concept that the collateral and the revenue from the collateral goes to you is stablecoin 2.0, and you will see that rolling out more and more, because now that $170 billion or the $200+ billion that the stablecoin industry has, and all that interest is going to centralized entities, now goes to the individual, now goes to the person who gave that entity that dollar. But Web3 promises more. That's the currency layer. Now, what about the banking layer? Because we're delivering a system. This technology enables us, all of you, all of the entrepreneurs out here, to create companies that create currencies and then ecosystems and applications that makes every dollar verifiable, every yield traceable, and every user empowered with that yield. So the next piece to that ecosystem is the on-chain bank. Think about traditional banks. Moving forward, you're going to have all these traditional banks leaning in to the Web3 space and to the blockchain space. They're going to offer you stable coins. And very soon, you won't need a crypto wallet and your banking application. It's all going to be blended into one. However, as I mentioned before, if it's not built from the ground up as a Web3 company with a token instead of equity, then how does the ecosystem, how do the banking customers benefit from it? And so enter the era of on-chain banks. So WeFi is another company that I'm involved in that I'm trying to bring this ecosystem to market. It's a decentralized on-chain bank, and its token rewards the users. All the fees that you're used to paying for transactions go into that token and you get more rewards. You get cheaper services. It's part of being part of the network. And in addition, this delivers on that promise of Web3. On the promise of blockchain, the democratization of world-class financial services to anyone that has a cell phone, where in the past, people were left out. The internet did an extraordinary thing. It democratized the access, the free global instant movement of information to everyone in the world with a cell phone. So people got educated and people wanted to participate. But that was only half of the battle. They still couldn't get paid. They couldn't interact. They couldn't do business, not in an efficient way, because it's just the movement of information. If you tried to pay these people in different countries, you couldn't do it. Enter the blockchain. So it really completes that cycle. The internet, democratized information. Blockchain, democratized value. But now, a decade plus after the advent of the stablecoin, you're hearing about the democratization of money. Because there's 1,000 companies launching stablecoins. Because it is the new way to interact with your community. It's the first time in human history that anyone, other than kings and governments, can create money. And that's what's taking place today. And what you're going to see rapidly expand over the next few years is ecosystem-specific stablecoins. Every large ecosystem is now going to have its own currency because it gives both the users as well as the owners and creators of that ecosystem a lot of benefits, a lot more control, a lot more profit, the ability to reward individuals for their actions. So you'll start seeing currencies labeled after the corporation or after the ecosystem. And we're building the infrastructure to provide just that, where it can be completely on-chain and significantly beneficial. So that will be coming soon as well. So we're not just building a better stablecoin. The technology is out there now to build the next era where money is open. It's participatory. Anyone who puts the money into the system gets to reap the rewards and gets a lot of productivity out of it. And so this is the future that we all get to build together, because you guys are all leaning into the space. So I encourage all the builders and the entrepreneurs to just be as creative as possible, utilize all this technology, because at the end of the day, it's truly elevating how people around the world get to plug in to this global ecosystem, do business, and earn money, and actually create a higher quality of life and higher standard of living for the globe. So, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Reeve. I like the fact that when you're talking, everybody listens. And obviously, we want to hear more from you about the future of money and what else is going to get democratized and tokenized, right? But it's not my job. It's actually Vaibhav's job. So I'm going to introduce the moderator for this fireside chat session, Vaibhav Ali. He is the co-founder and host of Tokenized
Kryptonite.
Kryptonite Dubai. Okay, so Vaibhav, over to you now.
Thank you. Good morning, Dubai, or good afternoon. Everybody's asleep, so one more time. Good afternoon, Dubai. Can we all put our hands up, like quickly and clap? Like, good afternoon, Dubai.
All right.
Thank you, Reeve. Thank you so much. I'm first thing, thank you for accepting my invitation in terms of joining 10 years of North Star. This is indeed okay. That's all right. I would love to be Reeve for a day or for a few minutes. So Reeve, the first thing that I want to know is that there are people who claim to be OGs. How many of you know the term OG here? Please raise your hand. Y'all, this side, y'all don't know the meaning of OG? Am I audible? He's like, yeah, of course, I know what OG is, bro. So there are people who claim to be OGs, there are people who are OGs, and then there are people who are Reeve Collins, right? Because I was reading about when you actually founded USDT, and boy, how many of you know that USDT was not the original name? Okay, do you know what was the original name? No, it wasn't anything similar. Anybody else from the crowd? Reeve might give you a airdrop, maybe, I don't know.
Well, back in the day, when we first had the concept, it was actually called real coin because it was real world money, real world dollars on the blockchain. So we had real coin at first, but then the concept of tethering the dollar to the blockchain made sense.
Absolutely. What I want to also understand is that back in the day, when you all started this, was it like a side project or you knew that this is going to hit the ball out of the park?
No, we definitely didn't know it was going to hit the ball out of the park, especially when any time that I would try to describe it to anybody, literally just blank faces and they thought I was crazy. So much so they wouldn't even pay attention. We couldn't even raise money for the company because no one understood. They're like, they couldn't even grasp what we were trying to say because they didn't understand Bitcoin, let alone the blockchain, and all of the regulatory and legal challenges that would be faced. Yeah, but it was a full-time gig, that's for sure, yes.
And how is it now looking back that you were the pioneer of something that we all love? If there is any project that wants to give me their tokens for advisory, I say, please give me my second favorite cryptocurrency, which is USDT, instead of, just the regular tokens. But what I also want to understand is that in terms of the compliance back then, how was it then? Because now we all are talking about compliance, we all are talking about how we need to structure and get it regulated. What was it back then? Was it like an absolute wild, wild west? Or how was it back then?
It was navigating a minefield. It was much different. It was a very gray area. It wasn't necessarily illegal because there was no regulations. There was no laws or any consideration of this new technology. That's what happens when you have the very beginning of an entire new industry is the regulations take a long time to catch up. However, the movement of money in general was highly regulated and highly scrutinized and highly controlled. And so you were entering in a space where the stakes were significant, where people were going to jail. So you had to navigate very carefully and delicately. But here's the premise, and this is what I want to encourage everybody, even today when there's more regulations, The good news is that today, if you're in that gray area, you feel safe enough to operate because they're not trying to directly go after you and put you in jail, whereas they were in the past. But that being said, still operate with integrity. Still operate as if you were regulated. That's what Tether did from day one. They operated as if. Because even though they weren't regulated, as long as you're not doing money laundering or doing anything shady or underhanded or taking advantage of people, when the regulations come, they might say, oh, well, you did something a little off or wrong, but you're not going to get in significant trouble. And so that's how that company has always operated.
And out of curiosity, I would love to know, how did you get into crypto? Because though I think Tether launched soon after Bitcoin. So how did that happen for you?
Yeah, I got deeply involved in crypto in 2013. One of my best friends at the time, Brock Pierce, who many of you guys may know, he's a very loud voice in crypto, an amazing human, introduced me to cryptocurrency. So he was just telling me I needed to buy Bitcoin, and so that's when I started getting involved, and that's when we started realizing the potential, and yeah, just really leaned in. And it was very interesting because no one heard of Bitcoin or blockchain. There actually even wasn't a term blockchain back then. It was just Bitcoin. And they said Bitcoin with a big B or Bitcoin with a little b. Because it was also, the Bitcoin blockchain was just called Bitcoin and the currency was called Bitcoin. And it evolved in about 2014 where people started utilizing the term blockchain and separating the two.
And by the way, for people who don't know Brock Pearson, he was also a child actor and ran for being the president in during the American elections. Reeve, the current surge and the interest in stablecoins it's going absolutely crazy. Every project or every country wants to launch their own stable currency. Do you think this is going to impact the credibility and the stability of stablecoin market as a whole?
Absolutely. It's going to impact the credibility. It's going to make it more credible. Like,
You think it's going to be more credible?
of course, if everyone in the world wants to get into something, you know, there's probably something to it. And the reason why everyone in the world, like countries, and as I mentioned in my talk, ecosystems, white labeled stablecoins. The reason they want to get into it is because it's very profitable. And if done properly, that profit can be shared with the ecosystem and the community. That's the technology I'm trying to bring forth. And it makes a lot of sense because when it's a stable coin, it's 100 times more efficient than the traditional banking system. So yes, I think it's an amazing movement. And the reason the whole world's getting involved, again, goes back to the US's stance on crypto. That has opened the floodgates and the regulatory stance from the US on crypto globally.
With this said, as more, with your experience on Tether, what are the key factors that you believe the new stablecoin projects should prioritize, differentiating themselves and gaining trust in this increasingly crowded space?
It's a good point. So obviously it needs to be reliability. Like, you have to know that the assets are there. You have to know that it's going to hold its peg and be backed one-to-one by $1 or a dollar equivalent. And so that's just the baseline. But the next thing, so let's say all things are created equal. And again, this movement of stablecoin 2.0, I believe most companies will start utilizing these tenets, which is all collateral on chain, because now all collateral is being tokenized and it can be on chain. There's a lot of companies in here tokenizing assets. But in the beginning, the tokenization of assets kind of moved a little slowly because yes, it's tokenized, yes, it might open up a new audience, but it didn't really increase the utility of that traditional asset too much. But now that you can use these tokenized assets as collateral for stable coins and collateral in different DeFi pools for different things, it increases the utility, meaning that with the same risk that traditional asset had, you're going to get a higher return. And if you can get a higher return at the same risk, then a lot of things are going to get tokenized. So the acceleration tokenization is going to happen much faster. And so when you ask, how are people going to stand out in this sea of stable coins? It's what value do they provide? And at the end of the day, it goes back to this ecosystem's stable coins, because the only value that the companies can provide is access and distribution. Companies that have massive amounts of users are going to be the ones that win the stablecoin race. Because now if you have a big company, let's say you're Western Union or MoneyGram or these big companies that move money, you've got tens of millions of customers around the world, you're going to create Western Union token, MoneyGram coin, because it makes a lot of sense. You have the audience. Your stablecoin does basically the same thing as 1,000 others, but you have the distribution in the audience. That's why ecosystem-specific stablecoins are going to be so popular, because in order to get acceptance and utilization, you need the ecosystem.
Absolutely. And what's your take on CBDCs then?
Ha. It depends on which hat you're wearing. If you're wearing the hat of the government, if you are a government, then CBDC is the best thing that has ever happened to your country. If you are a citizen, a CBDC is the worst thing that ever happened to your country. So, it just depends on who you are. Now, let's remove the good or the bad and just talk about the utilization and why someone wants a CBDC. It's complete control and transparency of your monetary system. It's the best thing that's ever happened, again, to a government. It's the worst thing that's happened to a user. But on the flip side, what the users give up for the lack of privacy and for complete censorship of their currency, what they gain for that is efficiencies like they've never seen before. They can pay all their bills instantly, they can get paid instantly, their taxes are removed instantly, everything can instantly happen in their wallet. However, it comes with a lot of drawbacks. But that's why there's two sides to this debate of CBDCs. And the only governments, I believe, that are really going to implement that at scale are the governments that lean more towards dictatorship style of governing, because they get to roll out whatever they want, and that type of currency is far superior.
Okay. With the current diversity of stable coins, each are backed with different asset or a different mechanism. Uh, Influencing the adoption of the tokenized financial ecosystem, what do you think we should, as consumers, look out for? Because people have gold-backed stable coins, guys have stuff like that. So what do you think, as consumers, we should look out for?
It just depends on what appeals to you, right? So in the beginning, it's going to depend on what appeals to you. Like, what do you like? Are you interested in gold? Do you feel gold is going to hold its value more than the US dollar? Do you not like the US dollar, so you want gold? Or do you want a euro? So that's what you're going to utilize. And then the next thing is going to be, which one generates the most yield? Like, what am I going to profit the most from using? What's the fastest, cheapest, and easiest? And in the beginning, it's going to come down to brand and what's available to you. But soon, none of that's going to matter. The brand won't matter. The product is what's going to matter, because AI is going to dictate which token you use and how it gets routed and where it goes. Because soon all our wallets and all our transactions are going to be run by some form of AI. You're going to ask your AI to execute some desired outcome that you want. Do you want to send money? Do you want to exchange your money? Do you want to make an investment? Do you owe someone something? When that's what you get to ask, and you know that it's going to be done the fastest, cheapest, and most profitable because you have an AI agent that routes it to the proper product, you're not going to care if it goes through Tether, Circle, or some other stable coin. You're just going to care that it happens. And that's the future that I foresee that's going to come probably sooner than we think.
Yeah, true, because when it comes to AI, the AI search history of on the internet was, I think, with the word chat GPT, it took 11 days to hit 1 million search terms. And I think for Web3, it took about 8 years to hit like 1 million search terms, if I'm not wrong with that number. So clearly AI is taking over. And with your stablecoin 2.0, we would love to understand that what do you think was missing in like Tether, and that is why you got in stablecoin 2.0, and what we should learn from stablecoin 2.0 as consumers?
It's the evolution of the stablecoin. It's the delivering on the promise of Web3. It's a bespoke company created so the community reaps the rewards and the benefits. Think about traditional stablecoins. The community is the one that put in $200 billion. It's all the individuals around the world contributed $200 billion. Not one single person who gave that money got a penny of economic value from it. Stablecoin 2.0 shifts that. It enables all that economic value from that money to go to the people who put it in the system. And I want to make a differentiator here. It's not a yield-bearing stablecoin. That was the first solution to giving yield back. But the problem with a yield-bearing stablecoin is that it's a security. It's not freely trading. It's limited in many ways. And also, if you spend it, you don't get the yield, right? So the premise of Stablecoin 2.0 is splitting that yield. So now you can spend it and still get the yield because you're the one that minted it. You put that money into the system, got the yield, and then get to utilize the stablecoin just like any other token.
Since we have just ran out of time, my last question is that we all want to know basically how to get rich in crypto. That's the bottom line. There are very few of us who really care about the technology, but we all are looking at how to get 100x on our initial investment, which is a cliche, but that's all we all look for.
It's a great question, and I'm glad he asked it, because that desire right there is the reason why the crypto industry is what it is. This has been driven by speculation and gambling. Every single innovation, for the most part, that leads the innovation, when you look at the value of Bitcoin and of our industry over time, every spike was driven by a new innovation that enabled the world to speculate, to gamble, and to make a ton of money, right? The rise of the ICO, the rise of meme coins, the rise of DeFi, all those things.
And now the rise of stablecoins.
Now the rise of stablecoins. However, the reason why that speculation is good is because it drives more and more people into an industry. They learn new technology that's hard to understand, but they need some sort of driver, and that's to make money. And so how to make money? It's speculation and gambling. So I can't comment on how to make money. What I can comment on is learn the technology, participate, get involved, build a company. And that's ultimately, even if you're not making money because you missed the latest meme coin, you're delivering something of value to the rest of the world.
My last question for all the founders out here, what would you like to tell them? Because you did touch upon that now there is regulation, but back then a lot were, a lot was in the gray. But right now you have regulation, but then people are kind of, very scared, because in crypto, I think, or in blockchain, the problem is the moment you launch your token and God forbidding your project fails, you are labeled as a scammer, which is not the right way to look at it. The Silicon Valley was built in a way saying that, okay, your project failed or your company failed, but you didn't fail as an individual. But there are a lot of founders, or there are a lot of budding founders who are very scared right now to launch a token, because if the token collapses, which probably will happen, they are going to be labeled as a scammer. Do you want to tell them something?
Launch a great product, not a token.
There you go. Launch a great product, not a token. Great way to finish this. Okay.
But the token comes with the great product, but you get to do both. And the token enables you to launch a great product as well. So just ultimately, though, do your best, treat other people well, and operate with integrity, because at the end of the day, even if your project fails and that part shines, then you won't be labeled as a failure.
Thank you.
All right. Eva,
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Reeve, thank you so much for reminding us that even though everybody wants to get rich, that it is important to be kind, to be nice to others, and to remember that it's not just about the technology, but also the value and the trust behind it. Thank you so much.
Let's take a picture.
Photo.